Hi, Shannon.
Shannon, oh, there she is. Boy, you're twisting around there, Shannon. Well, it's 6:01, and I'd like to start, if that's okay with everybody. What I try to do here is, well, first of all, welcome and thank you for doing this. What we're trying to do here is just have a discussion of the kinds of things that are facing us in terms of reopening. And before I go any further, anything we say tonight may in fact be untrue tomorrow. I mean, the things change so quickly, so crazily. So anyway, the purpose, and I'm going to read this because I want to make sure everybody hears what it is the purpose of this discussion group is to discuss the reopening of HES in order to assist the administration to provide an effective and safe school environment for all students and staff, and to help the various stakeholders to more fully understand what the reopening requirements are, i.e. from the state, and communicate other issues that you might have concerning this process, and to help others if they have concerns here in Hampton. And it doesn't seem as if there's anybody on the Zoom call who was not invited, so that's not an issue. This is a discussion. It's not something that we're going to be doing to make decisions. This is simply a way to get some information from other people who are stakeholders. Heather just joined us. She is from EastCon. She runs our food services, and she's here because not as a member of the group, so she's going to be asked to wait for comments until the end. But she's running all the food services, and part of our discussion is going to have to be in terms of the idea of cohorts, and the food service issue becomes part of that discussion. I'll do the moderating, and I need somebody to volunteer to do note-taking and someone to volunteer to do timekeeping, so that we keep it. For each question, we'll do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and 20 minutes. If we run out of time, we just stop unless there's a huge issue that we've tried to address. Anybody want to be the timekeeper? Just raise your little hand. Thank you, Alan. And then note taker, just key ideas. Anybody? Oh my God.
Linda's volunteered.
I will, but Dr. Ola, Dr. Ola, in chat, Shannon Haddad is having difficulty with her microphone.
I figured it out.
Great.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So, Frank, did you say Alan is doing the timekeeping?
Alan is the timekeeper, and Linda is the note taker. I have 3 questions. We could add any more if we have time. Each question is obviously 20 minutes. Alan, if we're at the 20 minutes, cut us off. If we're not, we'll just stop and go to the next question, okay? The 3 questions. First question is to discuss the understanding of Connecticut State Department of Education's reopening plan. I sent all of you, and I didn't expect any of you to really go through the whole darn thing, but the reopening plan is out there. There are some key ideas there. So anything that really stood out to you as, now remember the stakeholders here are the town, the Board of Ed, parents, and I tried to find 3 parents. 2 of the 3 are here, but who represented all the grade levels, not all the grade levels, but lower school, that's pre-KK, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, something like that. And someone who was special education, had a special education child. So we have all of those parents. We have the administrator. Judy's not here, but we have Sam is here. And then, of course, this is the person that's going to make almost all of the critical decisions relative to health and safety, Beverly. She has all the issues that really are going to talk about the opening of school in her hands, because she has done a fabulous job along with Sam trying to understand what's going on in this school. So Connecticut State Department of Education, I'll just open it up. Any key ideas, any concerns, any discussion issues that you'd like to please present, do so now.
Well, the State Department made it clear that we have to start as an opening with, of course, if anything changes with the COVID, but that we start by going into the building and opening up with face-to-face student learning, and that we have to have 3 different plans.
Right. Those, and everybody knows the 3 different plans is everybody's in the building and we all are there for the regular school day. There's kind of a plan that says if it gets somewhat concerning, and the State Department says, you know what, we got to modify, then we're going to have to do some other planning, especially in the buses, to modify the seating and arrangements and to ensure that everybody is being tested in terms of their health, wearing the masks. And then the other piece is that we're going to close and, you know, either have complete distance learning or some kind of a combination issue. So we have, was that all right, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, it sounds like we have to have those 3 different plans, but that we're starting as a face-to-face.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's what we're planning for, face-to-face.
Yeah.
My question from reading the report is whether they're having the 3 to 6 feet or just the, if they're relaxing the 6-foot rule between spacing in classrooms.
Yeah.
It sounded like the Connecticut plan was do the best you can.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's what it seems to be. Beverly?
I thought it was 6
I would
feet.
agree. I think you should try for the 6 feet, but it was a little less stringent when it came out in writing, but try for 6.
I think that the Connecticut Education Association would like to stick to 6 feet.
We're planning on 6 feet.
Okay.
One of the things that F&O, the Finance and Operations Committee meeting tomorrow, is going to absolutely focus on, otherwise I'm going to lose my mind, is whether or not we're going to pull down 2 walls to make larger classrooms so that we can, in fact, keep Team A and Team B at that 6-foot margin, so that not only the students, but the teacher, each teacher, you know, the teacher in the classroom, the parent in the classroom, the emergency doors, exits, all of those have that 6-foot piece. So with the walls taken down, we can easily do that with 20 to 23 kids in a large place. Just don't raise your hand, just talk.
So when it comes to maybe taking down the walls, when we submit the plan, or when you submit the plan to the state by July 24th, we should put in some budget information, what cost to take. I know that the governor was talking about some maybe relief when it comes to construction, but when I listened to his press release and I listened to the case synopsis, it sounded to me like that construction was going to some of the larger districts that had to do more construction, but at the very least, if we have to do that, we should include that in our budget. The state has not committed any funds at all yet, to my knowledge. They were told that they're waiting to get everybody's plan, and once they see what that would cost, they would start talking about the possibility of funds. And then when we're doing our 3 plans for learning, we also have to focus on the vulnerable population. Emphasis was placed on ELL and special ed as the vulnerable groups, that if we ramp down from 100% face-to-face to a blended learning environment to 100% remote or distance learning, once we start bringing the students back, I believe preference needs to be made to your vulnerable students first. And that was defined as ELL and special ed. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Ellen, do you have any clarification for the funding issue from the state?
No, I don't, but considering that both the contractor with previous knowledge of the building and John Berard, our building inspector with a lot of knowledge on the building, those are two non-weight bearing walls.
Right.
And I don't think it's going to be an exorbitant amount of money to take them down. Now, if we get into reconstruction, putting in temporary folding wall or curtain, that could run up. But to take the walls down, I do not believe will be a lot of money, something that we can handle ourselves till we are reimbursed. One thing with our small student population, abundance of room, I would think we would have no problem being compliant with distancing and focusing on the most vulnerable.
Right, I would say you're right. We talk about having a little school, and it was thought of as too bad. We don't have a lot of stuff going on. We have a lot of kids. We don't have a lot of kids, so we have very small classes. It's a positive as well as a negative. However, all of a sudden, being small is beautiful.
Right. And the other thing, I looked at the parent survey, the 39 people that did respond, and it looks like less than half would use student transportation. So, that's a good start.
Yep. The bad part about that is, how do we get all those students who are not on the bus, who are being brought in by their parents in the car, out of the car safely, so that a child and a car don't seem to be able to collide with each other. So Sam is already working on this thing about using the one-way street and making it two-way, so that the kids are dropped off and then they go around the parking island and then back out again, so that they're not interfering either with the bus or with the parking area for people who are actually on staff. So, and we're going to have people assigned out in the front door to make sure that everything goes along smoothly.
I wanted to bring up, we're talking about all the kids coming back, but it's my understanding that you don't have to come back to school if you choose not to. And at one point, a few board meetings ago, or maybe by email, you sent us a list of costs if a child were to be linked into the classroom with the teacher mic'd and TV, etc. And what I wondered is if anybody's addressed confidentiality with that. Has the state, or have we thought through whether you can live stream a classroom to a home and a home to a classroom?
That's a huge problem, because I'll give you the example. We're recording this tonight. I want to make sure everybody realizes it, so that I have access in case there's a question about what we discussed or clarifications. I cannot take this and put it up on our website, because our website will not allow for either video or audio without total permission of all the people who are on the screen. I don't know how it does that, but it will not allow that. So the question then becomes, all right, if I can't get the Zoom meeting up and everybody is here, then I don't know how we're going to make sure that the confidentiality within the classroom, because we have one side with, let's say, 20 students, all of whom have got to give permission to be on camera for the one student who happens to be at home. So yes, we are thinking about that, Mary Ellen.
Has the state addressed that at all, or are we going to have to do a different type of distance learning, not live streaming?
The state has not to my knowledge. I don't know if anybody else saw it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, hasn't addressed that whole confidentiality issue at all.
So what we may have to do is run two programs similar to the distance learning we were doing in the spring, and then classroom, which is very taxing on a teacher, and I would think that we're going to have to somehow separate those responsibilities.
I think once we can, go ahead. Sorry.
Since March to June, we've been there's information out there on all different styles to do the distance learning on, so that we could, we'd have to look at it to say which one best fits our elementary school students, but there's all different ways, the asynchronous model or synchronous model. So I think once we know about the confidentiality and what do we have for equipment to do live streaming and all, we'll be able to make a better choice.
And if not, we're going to have to get a teacher who is going to be doing the distance learning. So that's another position we'd have to look at.
Okay.
Would that be for all grades, you think, Frank? Not that you're doing it, but a teacher to do distance learning would do all grades, theoretically?
I think it all depends on numbers and the spread of the grades. We currently have an online software program called Success Maker that focuses on grades K to 6, and it supplies math and English language arts writing online without teacher input necessarily. But that requires that the parent is trained on how to deal with the child, which is one of the things we learned. We learned that basically, especially in math, we had a first grader who was doing third grade math work. And we think it was because the child's parent was doing the math. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but was assisting the child to the point where they were actually doing the math. So we're going to have to make sure parents understand how that software program works if they choose to keep their child in school. Out of school.
Sorry to interrupt, but Sam Roberson's computer's been crashing, so she's going to be trying to come in and out.
Yep. I saw that. Anything else? In terms of the state? To me, the biggest problem that I see is that the state says all students, all faculty must wear face coverings from grades. I think it's first grade, but it might be second grade. I'm getting so confused in terms of which grade level, all through the day. And so we're thinking of how can we possibly keep that understanding why, but keep it so that there are breaks. In other words, can the teachers just take the kids outside and take their masks off, or just everybody take their mask off and be quiet for a while, kind of thing.
I think that was encouraged, actually.
Yep.
I don't know if it was in the governor's speech, if it was in that 50-page document or whatever webinar I looked at, but taking breaks throughout the outside, social distance and taking the mask off, I believe was actually encouraged.
I saw that.
That would be.
I saw that too. I saw that in Massachusetts state plan was that they were planning in mask breaks, and that mask breaks should be done outside or in a separate section of the health room.
And I thought it was all grades, even including pre-K in kindergarten and first. I thought the mandate was all students wear masks. Yeah. All students, faculty, and staff must wear masks to be on the bus and to come into the school.
Especially the bus.
Yes. Well, they won't let you on the bus without a mask. And I do believe the school has to have some PPE available. I don't think you have to have it every single day, but you have to allow that if a student forgets their mask, we need to have a supply.
Yeah.
Beverly's
the
been,
buses also.
One thing
Mary Ellen? I know Beverly's been on top of that. We have ordered through CERC, which is.
Yeah, I was
Special
trying to
Education
wait for-
Resource Center.
Yeah, we put in an order yesterday,
For
Okay.
PPE.
so we'll have extras and, yeah.
Okay.
one of the
Oh.
things that the CABE webinar said was that temperature taking was not appropriate because it doesn't show when you have
Probably
COVID.
not gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless someone gets ill in the day, then that's just routine, but not as a screening to come in every day.
Right.
Okay.
Going back to masks, I have a question about masks. Beverly, did you see anything for the pre-K and kindergartners as far as masks? Like I sent something that showed more of like a face shield type hat.
Well, from what I've seen from the state plan, they're encouraging masks, but face shields might come in handy too. I mean, we have ordered some of those also, just to have. So maybe we'll get better direction closer to the time. But as far as I've seen right now, they're encouraging masks.
Alan, how are we doing on time?
We have 2 minutes left for this
Thank you.
question.
Other than in classroom spaces, what else do we know about spaces in the building, like hallways, bathrooms, gym, class, art room?
The issue that we've been working with is cohorting. So team B, your team, would always stay together, eat together. You'd send them out to the bathroom as a cohort, and we'll try to orchestrate it so that, you know, all the other teams in class, well, the pre-K and K are already taken care of because they have their own bathrooms, but you know, have the bathrooms assigned to specific teams. So, you know, the one down by the PE wing would be team C. Team A and B would have the ones right by the main office, and then you guys would have to decide how you're going to do your bathroom breaks. We do have, you know, a plan in place for the cleaning of the buildings, sanitizing of the bathrooms, and the sanitizing of the actual classrooms themselves, tables, desks, whatever we have in classrooms. A lot of the stuff is going to have to be removed from the classroom so we have enough square footage. And then we have 3 classrooms for storage, 1 for each of the teams. So, you know, that's kind of thinking about it.
For pre-K and K, Mary Ellen, after each use, do they have to clean the bathroom?
What do you mean?
Well,
like when
they are messy and they miss, and it could be difficult.
But it's not fluid. Just remember that. We're not talking fluid contamination.
That's true.
So every night we have this sanitized big machine that comes in with the steam, and it does the sanitizing and everything. And what we're looking at is to try to get a end. There you go. Thank you. Any other final comments on this particular thing, real quick? No.
And can the cohort idea be applied to the bus situation so that you have team A on bus 1, team B on bus 2, and team whatever?
Well, it wouldn't work because of addresses where people live. So we have enough room on the buses to keep kids literally 6 feet away from each other.
Well, you could, I mean, we have 10 kids in like a 2-mile radius in my corner. Give us a location to meet. We're all they're the same group. They're going to be together all day. We can sit in our cars on that corner and they can all jump on the bus at one time.
Okay.
You got one giant pickup.
Interesting idea.
Something to
Just a
think
thought.
about,
Sam,
yeah.
we'll have to look at that. And Bev?
After if we know which parents are going to be driving their kids, we can have the routes looked at another time by EastCon
Right.
because they just run it through computer.
Right. EastCon does our routing, so, and that's all done by computer, so that might be a real viable issue there. Okay, second question. Because you're representing different groupings of people, whether you're parents or you're teachers or you're the nurse, anything in particular that you as an individual representing, let's say, Alan, we'll start with you, representing the town that's of concern to you relative to the reopening of school?
Well, we have a mature demographic. There's nothing we can do about that. I don't plan on opening the town hall anytime soon. So my biggest concern was the school bus and the transportation. You know, if that's not disciplined, it almost doesn't matter what happens in the school thereafter.
Yep.
So, looking at the parent survey this afternoon, how long did they have to reply to that? Is that still open for comment, or is that a closed document?
It's closed as of July 3rd.
Okay.
When did we start it? The 15th or something like that, Sam?
It's been a few weeks, and it's the second one we sent out, and I think we'll be sending out more, especially as things change through the state. It's a good way to just get a finger on the pulse of what people are thinking.
I believe you had 39 responses. How many family-wise numbers would we be looking at to know how the survey got sent? What was the response rate with 39? I think it was about 39 responses.
Exactly.
Out of how many possible?
Yeah.
I can just tell you that of the 39, that represented, I think it was 57 students, individual students. And we have approximately 90. We don't know because we don't know how many pre-Kers are coming, first of all. Okay, because we haven't had a pre-K registration that was effective at this point. Okay, anything else, Alan?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ellen, anything from a board perspective or your perspective at EastCon?
One of the things I was talking about at our board meetings were the specials and how we're going to do things like band. And I don't remember where I got it from, but one of the suggestions was 12 feet apart for each student, where they're singing or an instrument where you blow. So I participated in the CABE webinar too, so I'm not sure if it was the state plan or the Q&A from the state plan where I got that from. But we have to look at that. And it was, I think it was in the CABE webinar that they said that a lot of the districts are using this special teachers as you had suggested at our, I don't know if it was the board meeting or something written that you sent out where the special teachers go in and work with the academic teachers. So evidently that is being done in widespread to retain teachers of music, art, and PE. Right. So I think we do have to look at how we're going to deliver those services, especially if we put Lark on the stage and you expect gym to be going on at the same time. If you could use the gym, you could probably distance 12 feet.
The special schedules, I think, did I send those out to you guys? Anybody? No? All right. The specials, I'll do that tomorrow. The special schedules are gym 4 days, and then although the music comes in twice a week, there's music on the cart that goes into the classroom, and then the day that gym isn't there, the lessons or the band or the chorus can meet in the gymnasium. So the schedule is
So
kind
what
of take
type of-
advantage of that.
What type
Yeah.
of lesson would be going on in a classroom?
A regular, instead of going to music class, it's like art on the cart. This is music on the cart. Music will then go into the classroom. You want to keep the cohorts together. And so the Lark will take her class materials on a cart, go into the classroom, do her class. That becomes the planning time for the classroom teacher. And so the kids stay in that classroom as cohorts. They don't have to mingle or we're trying to get away from a lot of time in the hallway, those kinds of things.
I appreciate that, but I also don't want them close together and singing. I mean,
Right,
that's
right.
unless Bev can shed some light on that.
Oh,
My understanding
yeah.
is you don't do that. So it's going to have to be
Close together.
rhythm or something.
For
Yeah.
music class, Mrs. Peck has been redesigning her
Curriculum.
lessons.
Yeah.
So it's not singing during the regular class time music program. She's redesigning it.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, did you have anything?
I do. I have two things. One thing I got from the CAVE webinar is that communication to the public is going to be key. We need to communicate that returning to school is going to be as safe as we can make it, and we want to instill confidence in our community. Also, we might want to, a lot of the I don't know who, maybe the unions, I forget, have been asking about PD. You know how teachers have mandated PD that they have to do, and then there's other stuff that they can do. A lot of teachers have been asking that maybe some of the mandated PD be pushed aside to make room for things like identifying the symptoms of COVID, learning how to train the teachers to have the students walk through the building. I'm just putting that out there. And then in the governor's announcement on June 25th, he said that 43% of teachers who say they are high risk and do not want to return to school. And then in the paper, the 50-page paper that the Department of Ed put out, put in some risks, put in some, I don't know what I want to say, but we surveyed the parents and the students. I would like also for us to consider our teachers and our faculty and our staff. We should look at with all privacy, we should take into consideration if there's any of our faculty or staff that are high risk. We're not mandated to, accommodate them to keep them out of the building, but it's something that we definitely should try to consider.
Beverly, can you just comment on that?
Yeah, I think the state is pretty clear that people need to have options if they're not feeling comfortable. So I think we definitely need to accommodate that, or at least try to.
And Beverly, Sam, and I have already talked about specific, I can't tell you, but specific individuals. And we know who, or we think we know who would be concerned by their risk factors. So we have done that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think everyone, need to share that if they feel comfortable sharing it, and they have definitely a right to share that.
Anything else?
That's going to impact budget. That is something that we're going to have to address budget-wise. If we have to duplicate, having perhaps the teachers that don't feel comfortable coming in can do the distance learning.
Correct.
But we are going to have to figure out how to staff up.
Right. Our biggest problem, Mary Ellen, that you brought that up, so is the issue of all of our substitutes, save one, are retired teachers, i.e. close to either 65 or older. So we have a dearth of possible substitutes because they're all may choose not to come in. Rachel, do you have any issues?
I just keep thinking if there's going to be a lack of teachers that are uncomfortable, is this going to put pressure back onto the parents to do homeschooling again? Are we going to, do you think, do you see that becoming an issue again?
We're thinking that it will be, and the issue will be how we can best assist parents with their choice of keeping their child at home, i.e., then keeping their child at home is one thing. Homeschooling is a different piece, and we have a form that says you can do this. We've already had about one or two, I can't remember, Sam, she's gone, one or two kids already who are being homeschooled, and we'll offer that Success Maker software and whatever else we can do to help the parent with that homeschooling process.
Maybe I shouldn't have used that term. I mean, like if it gets to the point where we don't have enough teachers to even have the kids in the classroom, are we going to end up having to do what we did March through June, where now the kids have to be at home? We have to do that. Like 43, if you go with the 43% across the state, I mean, 43% of our teachers, that's like all the teachers.
Right.
It's a big...
The only thing I could say to you, Rachel, is we think there are 2 teachers who might qualify under that issue that we know of. Sam has sent out a questionnaire in terms of where are you, what would you like to teach, those kinds of things, and are you going to return? And if you're not going to return, please let us know, and because of health or because you've chosen not to come back, whatever the issue is. But to be very honest, Rachel, I am not worried about finding replacement teachers because there are so many kids who came out of Eastern, for example, who are unemployed or underemployed. They're not doing what they're qualified to do in terms of certification. I'm not as concerned about it. I'm more concerned about the health and safety of the staff we have rather than not having enough teachers.
The State Department guidelines are suggesting that, and you mentioned, Frank, that we don't have a sub pool. They're saying get a better sub pool. Find those younger people and boost up your sub pool just in case there are issues and you can't rely on the older population of retired teachers. And they also suggested in their document that those retired teachers take on the task of doing the online learning for the students and parents and families that chose to keep them out of the building.
Correct. Yep. Anything else, Rachel? Okay. Linda.
Frank, when you when you said there are 1 or 2 being homeschooled, did you mean distant learning or homeschooling?
No, homeschooled. They filled out the homeschooling paperwork.
Okay.
That's why I was confused, Rachel, by the use of the word homeschool as compared to distance learning.
Yeah, that was wrong choice of word. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Linda.
I want to kind of add on to what Alan shared about if the travel isn't done as safely as possible, aren't going to work anyway. I mean, there's going to be considerations for that. And Bev, I don't know what those would be, but I think that's a big one. And then I understand for cohort and push in and on the cart, but I'm wondering if those teachers are going in and out of all the cohorts, is that reducing the safety factor anyway, since the adults are the ones that are, I don't know, caring, I don't know what you call it. And then my third thing, and it kind of couples on to what Rachel said, it's and on Susan, and that was PD, not just for teachers, but teachers with parents, so that when we are doing the distance learning, they're comfortable with what we're trying to do, because again, in this startup, each team devised their own, and depending on what you were doing already in the classroom, you might have had an easier learning curve for it than others. So I think there's some partnership things that we need to do with the home, with the parents, or if and when, or those who choose, or if we have to shut down for a short period, that there's a flow there.
Yeah. So the
That's
PD
it
for
for me.
parents is an interesting concept. Anything else, Linda?
I don't know if you'd call it PD for parents, but
Well,
you know, like parent nights and share, or parent Zooms and share. I don't
Right.
know.
okay. Anything else? No. I just to let everybody know, I've already asked Chrissy Stone, who is the president of the Hampton Education Association, if we could move one of our PD days in October, which is right after Indigenous People Day, the 13th, and put it to the beginning of our school, so we'll have 2 PD days and 1 work day before the kids come back, to ensure that every single parent, teacher understands what the regulations are, the information on COVID, how we're going to process the information in our building, and to give you time as team people to work together to understand. I mean, just for example, like I said, team A and B, they're going to share the bathrooms. So they have to kind of orchestrate all of that movement in the hallways and so forth. So it'll give you time. So we're trying to see if we can have the board change the calendar from 1 PD and 1 work day to 2 PDs and 1 work day, and have the kids go to school on October 13th. That gives time, maybe even for the teachers to connect with the parents and say, these are the kinds of things we need to do if in case we go to lockdown or whatever. Okay. Let's see. Mary Ellen, anything?
No, I already.
No, sorry.
Mary Ellen
Ellen,
Pena.
yeah.
Oh, Tanya.
Mel, sorry.
We spelled the thing too.
Okay. I have some concerns about social distancing or physical distancing with the younger children.
Oh, yes.
We need desks in the kindergarten room because they need that actual physical separation. Right now we have tables and they need
Yep.
that actual sense of separation. You know, I just think that there are numerous early childhood difficulties with this whole physical distancing.
We may have to limit
I don't have
the
any
number of kids.
I don't have any questions or answers. I just know that it's going to be difficult.
We may, NIAC at this point for pre-K has said 10 students max in each class. That becomes problematic because, not in your case, but in pre-K, we have a teacher and a para, and we have 18 slots, and that's what we get our funding on. So if it's only going to be 10, almost half our funding is going to disappear, or could disappear. Teacher salaries, para salaries, supplies, materials, equipment, and then Social Security, not Social Security, the insurance for and so forth, and Medicare taxes. So it's a huge problem. We don't even have an idea, although the rumor is 10 kids in a classroom, which means, like, if we do kindergarten,
Okay.
it have to be by lottery.
I'm wondering about ventilation. Once we have to close our windows, what's happening in the building to better ventilate?
I can tell you that MCOR, which is the HVAC people, were here at the school today. They've changed all the filters. They ran the system, and that's all I can tell you. I don't know anything else about it, but that's what they were doing today to ensure that we have an appropriate heating and not air conditioning, heating system and air handling system.
To tap into that, Mary Ellen, some of the rooms, the building has somewhat settled, so physically we're not able to open those windows, some of the windows, so that at times you either have to stand on the counter and
Yeah,
do
they're
it,
difficult.
or
They're very
have
difficult.
someone come in. So I don't know if that can get looked at. I know they've tried
I think it
WD-40 a
should.
few times, but
Able
that's
to,
something to look at for.
We need to be able to open windows
Yeah.
without it being a big deal.
I think we discussed that, didn't we?
Yeah,
Bev,
we did.
Bev, Sam, and I meet every week. We discuss these issues, and we did discuss not WD-40, but there is a synthetic greasing kind of thing that's made specifically for the kinds of windows that we have. We just have to find out what the rails are like. Time, but I'm going to go to Shannon because I haven't heard from her. Anything that concerns you at this point?
My concern is really mainly budgetary. I just, in light of, I just, how, going back to the town and making sure that you guys have what you need and making sure that it's articulated back to the town in the best way so that we can get it done. I understand what those obstacles are, and just clear, concise, and compelling. And I know that time is of the essence. So I know these are not easy things to come up with in short order, but you got to have what you got to have, and we got to figure out a way to do it. So, I mean, that's the only thing that everything comes up, and I'm thinking, okay, we got to come up, it's got to be done. So, and I know what you're up against. So, I mean, honestly, that's where my mind is at. Like, people and resources and all of these things.
Yep.
And it's the town's got to pay for it. So,
Alan?
That's what I have to say, folks.
Any comment,
And
Alan?
keeping little ones with masks on all day and keeping them all 6 feet apart.
Yep.
A couple of them are mine, so there you go.
There you go.
Call me when you need me. All right, that's all I have to say.
It ends up with what plan we settle on, or what it migrates to, whether it's plan A, B, or blended C, to be determined.
Yep.
So we have a budget to start with. When it doesn't work, we'll have to make adjustments.
Right. Yeah, understood and agree.
I do think we have the funds for removal of the walls, or that's what I've been led to believe, that I shouldn't worry about the funding of the removal.
No, there's money in capital non-recurring account, I think, to cover that. And I have no plans to initiate paving of the parking lot in case we need to access that money.
Right.
There's pools of money that can be accessed very quickly with town approval. The town is in a strong position.
Thank you. Okay, Shannon?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm here.
Yep. Did you hear Alan's response?
Thank you.
To you? Yep. Okay.
I did. Thank you.
Okay, good. So we're really at the last question. The question is, what do you think is the biggest takeaway? One point that you felt was the biggest takeaway. Okay. Beverly, I'm going to go down to you first. In my screen, you're at the bottom of the screen. That's why I sit down. What's your biggest takeaway? Anything in particular?
Well, mainly my focus is that I want to keep kids safe at school. I don't want anybody getting ill from our school, so I want to do everything I possibly can to prevent that. Nothing will be perfect, but we want to make it as safe as possible, and I want input from parents too. I want to know how they're feeling and how we can support all parents and kids, and especially our special ed population. So I want to be in good communication with all parents and letting them know, what our plans are. I think, as Susan said, the communication is going to be really important.
Yep.
to give confidence.
So communication. Shannon?
Big takeaway for me is I'm concerned for the staff and just maybe managing all the variables. You know, I mean, I expressed, you know, my concern about budget, but you know, that stuff can really always be worked out, I think, one way or another. But I am concerned about the staff, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot with all these kids and everybody having to. I mean, I think to be honest, I think kids have really learned to adjust and having this time, going out in public and learning to. I mean, kids are learning. They're following the example of their families and being out in public and wearing masks. And you know, it's not like it's completely abnormal, but to come back and sit in a classroom all day seeing their friends again, maybe sometimes for the first time. And I don't know, I'm a little bit concerned about that adjustment and how taxing that can be on staff, and maybe in this case, the diminished staff. I think can be difficult, and I'm a little worried about that.
Okay. Thank you. Mel?
That Shannon is my biggest concern. The emotional, the social emotional adjustment of these children to this whole new way of looking at their friends, of looking at their teachers. I mean, if I could have a clear mask so that they can see my expressions, that would really be great. But to walk around seeing how different life got is going to be an emotional challenge to face.
Sue?
I think the things I've already brought up, communication to the public is going to be very important. Some strong PD for faculty, staff, and parents, because parents should know how to drop off their child, how to pick up their child. Are they going to come in and sign them out? Are they going to touch doorknobs? So we have to have a lot of protocols in place, and they need to be well communicated to the public prior to the start of school. I'm also concerned about faculty and staff. I am concerned about students, but as I read through the other states' plans, and I read through our state's plans, and I listen to the governor, and I listen to the CABE webinars, there's a lot of focus on protection of students, which is great, but I'm a little more concerned about the safety of all the people in the building, and that includes faculty and staff. And then I just think we need to have strong, the state has put an emphasis on an improved distance learning plan. So if we are going to go to a blended and distance learning environment or remote learning environment, they've placed emphasis on it needing to be improved, whatever that means. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel?
The two things I think that really just keep coming out to me, like the safety for the kids and everything and the teachers, but the safety seems to equal a lot of less movement for the kids, which I can see being very taxing on them. My kids have sit at a table for 2 hours to get their work done, and it was torture. I cannot imagine not being able to leave the class to go to music. That's part of the fun. Going down the hallway. I understand why we have to do that, but I also see that being a very large drain on them and can kind of impede on the learning for them. So that's concerning to me. And the other thing is what is really going to be needed from the parents, because it is very hard to juggle the new working environment for parents along with the schooling environment with these kids. And if the amount of kids with the teachers allows for everyone to actually be in the building, then that's great. But if things change and we can't do everybody in the school, the working parents who then have to do both need more support.
Okay. Thank you. Linda?
Well, it's the changing nature of all of this, and knowing we need 3 plans that are all equally viable, that may be needed at any time. And to think that 2 days of PD with 1 prep in the room, I don't think so. I think in order to get that whole piece from exactly what Susan said, from how do you arrive at school? What are the expectations? I mean, the social, emotional, the SEL classes, the health classes that are going to really be geared to what's it like being back in, to the expectations for everybody. So that changing nature, I was so hoping that we'd have a better, like nature of the change. That's the changing nature of all of this and what it all applies on the parents, on the students, and on the community.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mary Ellen Donnelly.
Well, we have to do 3 plans, but really in the first plan, we have to have 2 plans, one for distance learning for those who do not want to come back to school or cannot come back to school, and an in-school plan. So we can't forget that part. So I think my biggest takeaway is we all need to work together and be flexible. And I think we're going to have to really remember that.
Thank you. Alan, final word?
Yes, Mary Ellen, to her point, flexible, open-minded, communicate, as Sue said. In my mind, the distance learning is going to have to be finely honed, because it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And we have to, I think we have to be prepared, maybe for an extended period of time. But we all know what it's like to make young ones sit still for a long period of time. But we're going to have to work on one thing. I noticed, like at the Mennonite school downstairs to the town hall, they seem to have more frequent breaks, but for less amount of time, as far as recess. So maybe they're going to have to use the fire doors, let the kids go out, blow off some steam for 5 minutes, take off their face masks, stay distant, but, get the blood moving, get your face mask off. Maybe we could work on a plan where some of the larger grades could enter and leave the building at the beginning and end of this school day, same way, of course, with staff supervision. But we're going to have to be flexible. I see, logistically, building, upkeep, maintenance, snow removal, everything. Yeah, this is a work in progress, and 1 month at a time. We're going to have to keep an open mind and be ready to make constant adjustments. This isn't going to be easy by any stretch.
Okay, thank you. I think we're done basically, and I'm going to ask Heather from EastCon. Just to let you know, we do have purchased a rolling cart that has, it's called a bun tray cart. So it has like 20 shelves. We only bought 10 so that you can put all your lunches on the cart, bring it to the kids. They're not going in the cafeteria for lunch. Can't sit them in we all have, the directive is all the kids have to face the same direction. Well, it's impossible with the current situation we have in the lunch. So that's where we are. So any comments?
Is the cart enclosed and the trays go inside?
Uh,
the cart getting like the kind that are in a nursing home, so that then the trays need to be then collected and then brought back and washed. So there's a whole process there if we're not going to use throwaway. So we have to think about that, because I also have to make sure that the handling of the food and leaving the cafeteria, that it's not contaminated in any way from the point of plating to the child's desk. So that's something that we have to consider on how that's going to be. And then getting the dirty plates then to come back and have Robin clean after there's been bodily fluids and all that stuff. So hard trays may not be, or we may have to line them with disposable. There's things to think about that way. Also, for that plan, which is great with feeding the kids in the classroom, but for all of the children that opt to not come back and distant learning, there has to be a way to feed them as well. So as you're aware that all children in Hampton fall under our CEP model, which means they're eligible for free and reduced meals, they're all entitled to that. So just because a parent decides to stay home with the child because they think it's safe, they are still entitled to that free breakfast and that free lunch.
Okay.
So then that bodes the question, can Robin handle getting all of these trays and then out to the classroom? I know you said Sam's not here, but that Andy could help. But then I have to have how and when am I going to have parents pick up food? What does that look like?
Yep.
So we have to be prepared for both right out the gate, and then obviously transitioning to what will most likely, another closure or something like that in the fall, which we did seamlessly the first time. That I feel we can be successful with. It's safely feeding the children while they're in the building. And what does that look like? But I have to make sure that we're doing best practices across the board, because it's not just one person handling the food any longer. It's whether it's Andy or a teacher or an aide or somebody or a helper getting the food out and distributing it. So that's something we want to look at and how that's going to be.
So it looks like you and I.
How do you know who's taking alternate and hot? And then we're gonna have to name it. It's gonna get a little bit hectic.
Dicey.
And you guys are my smallest school, so if it's gonna be hectic here, when I think about my high schools and all the other stuff, it's gonna get like a little bit really crazy.
Yeah, well, we're going to try to keep it as uncrazy for you as possible. So you, Robin, Sam, and I should sit down before the end of July to make sure that we have everything in place and to purchase the coverings we need for the food as it goes down the hallway. All right.
And I'm going to make sure that we have enough staff, so that's on my end too, to make sure that it's we successfully run it with a one-person show there, Robin being successful. But if we have to have food out one door, out the back door and out into there may be something different. So we'll talk all about it. But I just wanted to.
Every time I ask, it gets more and more complicated. All right. It's 7 o'clock. I really thank you all for coming, and we're going to meet again on next Tuesday. I'll send out some more information, especially the class schedules, so you can get a sense of that, and any other information that comes from the state. I'm not asking you to spend a lot of time reading it, but it's for your edification if you choose to do that. I'm looking for, if you can just talk to your friends, neighbors, and fellow staff members. Let us know through this discussion group what's out there, okay? And let's try to make it as seamless and as communicative and as flexible as possible. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.